In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create this fun lace stitch using a single bed knitting machine. If you would like to download a chart for this stitch, you can find that on my Patreon. There you can also support my channel so I can continue making videos like this one. Would like to take a moment to say thank you to everyone who is supporting me there. Without their support, these videos would not be possible. For this demonstration, we will be using tools ranging from 1 to 5 prongs. If you do not have a 5-prong tool, don't worry, you can just use a normal tool and do the transfers in 2 steps. We will be using the 5-prong tool to do the first transfer. Choose a center needle and grab the 5 stitches to the right of that needle and transfer them all together 1 stitch to the right. I will repeat the same with the 5 stitches to the left of the center needle. We have now created 2 eyelets on either side of the needle in the very center. You can look now to your sample and identify the needle that received a second stitch, and we will complete another transfer to form another eyelet, and after that this needle will receive a 3rd stitch. So what we have to do is to grab the 5 stitches to the right of that needle that has 2 stitches now and transfer them all together, in this instance to the left. And this needle now has 3 stitches. This is just one way to kind of keep track of where you are in your transfers. But once you practice this stitch a couple of times, you will see that it's actually not that complicated. We'll repeat the same on the other side. Just so you know, I have 41 stitches in work for this demonstration. We can complete one more transfer here. From the eyelet that I just created here, I'm going to skip one and then transfer the 5 stitches to the right of that and transfer them all together 1 stitch to the right. And we'll do the same on the opposite side. We will knit 1 row. For the next transfer, we will be using a 4-prong tool to transfer. And now that you've done the first set of eyelets, it's easier to see where to do next. You can either keep in mind that every single time you do a transfer, the same needle will receive a 2nd and a 3rd stitch, or you can just look at the eyelets that you previously created, and you know that with every transfer, you will move 1 stitch further from that needle where you began. Here's where I began my previous transfer, and now I'm just going to move 1 stitch to the right. And I will repeat that across. I'm making sure to put the needles that I've emptied back in working position, and we'll knit 1 row. The next step is to use a 3-prong tool, and with every eyelet that we're creating, we're transferring 1 stitch less. Transfer using a 2-prong tool. And lastly, a 1-prong tool. Once we completed this last transfer, we will be knitting 2 rows instead of 1. The next step is to again use our 1-prong tool, and we will again be forming an eyelet on either side of that center needle, just like we did here at the beginning using a 5-prong tool. These 2 eyelets will be aligned with the first eyelet that we created, so I'm going to repeat that here and here as well. This time, instead of placing those needles back in working position, I'm going to push them all the way to the back because I want to create here 2 ladders. We'll again knit 1 row. I'll continue with another transfer, so instead of having a 1 needle ladder, I will have a 2 needle ladder. I'm just going to move 1 stitch further. We'll make sure that the needle stays out of work and we'll knit 1 more row. And lastly, we will do 1 more transfer so that we have a 3 needle ladder. Knit 1 more row. We will now begin putting needles back in working position. I'm going to put 1 needle on either side of the needle that we have left here. Knit 1. Bring 1 more needle in work. Bring these last needles in working position as well. And after doing that, we will again be knitting 2 rows. So we are knitting 1 row in between every transfer or in between every time we're placing a needle in work here, except when we're placing the last one. And here, if you remember, we knitted 2 rows after completing the last transfer using a 1-prong tool. And this was half of our repeat. For the next half, we're going to do the same exact thing, but we're just going to stagger the transfers. So this time, instead of forming an eyelet on either side of the center needle, we will transfer towards the center needle so that it receives those 3 stitches. Here is our center needle. And I'm going to transfer the 5 stitches to the left and to the right of it towards it so that the needle will then have 3 stitches. Like I mentioned before, if you do not have those tools, you can just use your normal standard tools to do these transfers. So I'm going to grab the 2 stitches to the right of the needle, transfer them first. So that was half, and then I'll continue with 2 more. And this is how I transferred 4 stitches in 2 steps. We've completed our last transfer using a 1-prong tool. That means I'm going to knit 2 rows. And the next step to complete this repeat is to form those ladders. Again, they are aligned with the first eyelet that we formed using a 5-prong tool. And I'm ready now to begin putting needles back in work on either side of that needle. And this is one repeat of the pattern. If you want to complete another repeat, begin just like we did at the beginning, transfer away from the center needle. Of course, if you don't wish to stagger the repeat, you can always repeat the transfer straight and just do them always in the same place. It's entirely up to you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this stitch and you will give it a try. If you do, don't forget to tag me on my Instagram so I can see as well.